Hey everybody, it's Bendy Hammers with Hammer and Company Shooting. One of the things that I kind of wanted to throw out there is why I called it Hammer and Company Shooting, because it's not about me. I would consider myself a contractor of training where I want to be surrounded with the best people. So in order to do that, we got to fly places like, where are we at?
We're in Jackson, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta.
Jackson, Georgia. And if you don't know him, I am with Steve Foster, who is my Steel Challenge mentor for that matter, and one of the best ones in the game, has been for a long time. These kids are
they're fast, aren't they?
They're doing some practice times that makes it difficult, but this guy's the one that knows what's going on. That's why we're down here, and he is one of my definite and company parts of Hammer and Company. So Steve, tell us about yourself just quickly, because you could go on for hours, right?
My name's Steve Foster. I'm a Gemini, like moonlit walks in the beat. Oh, not that kind of interview?
It's not that kind of site.
It's not?
It's not.
Well, I'm Steve Foster. I'm the team captain of the Steel Target Paint Shooting Team. Been doing this competitive thing turning around the country for the last 5-6 years and just having a blast. Met Ben and his wonderful wife, Denise, and that guy that hangs around Dennis a little bit. So great folks. So fortunate to have you guys out here with us training. We're having a blast.
So the purpose of coming down here is to not only better ourselves, learn how to shoot Steel Challenge a little bit better, a little bit of networking. For me, it's also learning about training, how to teach, how to train, because Steve's one of the better ones I've been around. So one of the things that I want to ask and put him on the spot, I did not give him questions ahead of time, so this might be a hard one. What's the difference between training and practice?
Woo, that's a great question. I think when you're training, you've got a plan, and when you're practicing, you're just blindly throwing rounds down range from my perspective. Okay. Old basketball coach said, hey, you know, it's about perfect practice, but it's more than that, because I think it's more than just taking something and just, it's not a big deal if I make that shot or if I go 1 for 1. But when you're training, you got a distinct plan of what you're going to do. Every time I go out the range, I bring a particular gun, particular division. I know exactly what stage or stages that I'm going to set up, and I have at it. So I think that's the difference for me.
Right, so I asked him that question, and I definitely put him on the spot, because that's not an easy question. And that's one of the questions, though, that we all need to answer for ourselves. We need to answer, what are we doing, especially in these current times with our ammunition and our time, for that matter. So for me, and this is going to be something that will evolve, and you'll see guys like me and Steve kind of work this out for Hammer and Company and for him as well, where I think you were right there on it, where training is when you're learning about your messing with, where's this hand go? Where do I stand? What order do I shoot this stage in? That to me, that's training. And then also training is coming out with a plan. And then for me, practicing is practicing what you train.
Sure.
So practice is actually a part of training. But overall, for me, practicing and training, the difference for me is training is when I'm looking at changing things. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that leads me into this question. We're down here obviously to train to learn. Tell everybody what you would think, where you would be careful about when you're practicing, and how you would go about changing things if you're going to change something.
So I think the important part, and I'm putting out an article with USPSA magazine that's going to be in the next issue that talks about this. It's, you got to be careful not to change too many things at one particular time. It's like a science experiment. Is if you change too many different things, you're not really sure what has the desired impact, no pun intended, that you really want. Like when we were training with your wife earlier, there was a couple of areas of opportunity. We addressed one, and then we cemented that, consciously burned that into our subconscious, and then we went to the next one, and then we went to the next one, and then what happened to her times? They went from here, and then she started shooting personal bests on 5 to go. We just tore it down, and then, you know, she shot just under 2 seconds. She shaved 2 seconds off of her time, and it's incremental change. So you got to be careful not to change too many things at once. It's really, you got to change one at a time, but also it's important, like what we've been doing, you got to document it all, because just because you don't want to do that Steel Challenge math, like, oh yeah, I shot a 185 on 5 to go, and see, I could shoot this at like 750. No. It's, you got to get 4 out of 5. You got to get 4 out of 5, and it's got to be repeatable. So that's what I would say is the biggest thing. You don't want to come out here with different guns and different optic, and you want to do this with your right hand, do that with your left hand. Okay, well, change the guns or change the optic and do one at a time. Yep.
So one of the things that we're talking about right now and that I open with is Hammer and Company shooting, and it's going to encompass a lot of different things. It's going to encompass everything from competitive shooting to self-defense type shooting and things like that. So this is part of the and company part, is bringing Steve in to give us that competitive part. So one of the things that you mentioned, you're captain of
Steel Target Paint shooting
Steel
team.
Target Paint. Tell us about that. Tell us about the team.
Well, I think we've got 30 members across the United States, and we're really focused in on the family side. Don't get me wrong, we've got some of the best shooters in the country. We've got multiple senior champions. Chris Barrett won 4 world titles. But what we really focus on is the best people in the sport, and I think we've got the best team in shooting sports, because it's just not about how fast you can shoot a gun. It's who well represents the Second Amendment, who's personable out on the range, who takes care of our sponsors, and those types of things. So you don't necessarily have to be the best shooter in the world, but you have to be one of the best people in the world to be on the Steel Target Paint shooting team. It's more of a family than it is a team.
Right. One of the things that I've learned it from Steve, and who owns it?
Larry Joe Steely Jr.
Larry Joe Steely, and who's his right-hand guy?
Me?
Oh my God.
Oh, Justin?
Justin.
I'm just kidding.
Sorry, Justin. So one of the things that I've learned from these guys, and this is something that I incorporate both into myself and into my company, is, when I thought of sponsorships and when I thought of involvement for that matter, my first thinking was you got to be the best, you got to be the fastest, you got to be beating everybody out there, and it's just simply not the case. The case really is approach. That's the word that I would use, is approach. It's approach. And that's why I think, in my mind, the top 2 teams out there in any competitive field right now, people will disagree with me, but I absolutely feel like the 2 that are doing it the best are Steel Target Paint and the Stricklands.
Yeah.
I mean, because they have that same approach.
And I would add on a third team there. I think Tandem Cross is the same way.
Absolutely.
They support the sport with junior shooters as well as Steel Target Paint, as well as Strickland Custom Gun Works. But it's more of like a family get-together that just happens to be shooting when you go to the range, which is the part that I like about it. I really enjoy that aspect of it.
Right. So that's one of the things that I'm still continuing to learn from Steve, is how to approach, how to train, how to teach others even for that aspect. So one of the things that we've discussed a little bit before, and I even asked his permission, is when people come down here to train, when they come to train with Steve Foster shooting, right, and learn this, there's an approach that you go after.
Yep.
And one of the things that I asked Steve last year was, what if it was a situation where you have a program and someone else could continue to develop that program with you at a different location? So one of the things that I've learned to do is to pass on some of his program and his approach, and then send people down here, and then they're a leg up when they get here, right?
Right, for sure.
So how would you, as quickly as possible, allow someone to understand what your program is for coming down here?
Oh, you got to pay for that, don't you?
Well, well, yeah, you do. But what's your approach? What are you looking for?
So, number one, I'm looking for people that are really invested in shooting, not somebody that just wants to learn how to be a better shooter. Looking for somebody that's really invested in the sport, and somebody that's more specifically has reached that plateau, because that's what I specialize in. From an analytical approach, we'll look at every single stage, every single string, and where they can improve, as you've seen this morning. And I mentioned your wife because this is her first time here, and you and Dennis have been here before, but it's let's let her shoot, and then we analyze based on the numbers, and then we physically observe what's going on, and then we take those things together to formulate a plan on how to make things better. So it's a very analytical approach. I'm working with Jeff Jones. He's got another tool that I've helped him develop that helps you look at the analytical side, but it's just not that. You got to be able to put it together. But first, before you get better, you got to identify where your areas of opportunity are at.
That's exactly right. One of the most impressive things about Steve's program, And I'm glad that you didn't interpret the question the way that you might have thought that I
Sure.
was asking to start out with.
Sure, sure.
We're not going to let the cat out of the bag early on.
Yeah.
But what I'm looking for, and he explained it, is that what if somebody could look at who you are, what you've been doing, and have what I call the coach's eye.
Yep. Yep.
Look at what you're doing and then tell you specifically this is the direction that you need to go in and improve, rather than just come out here, pay your money, fly down here,
Yeah.
and then spend the day with him and him tell you shoot roundabout in this order.
Yeah, that's not what it's about.
Not at all, right?
Nope.
Not at all. It's much deeper than that.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So what if you could have somebody that could look at what you're doing on paper and in person,
Yeah.
and then start to tell you this is the direction that you need to go in the next 6 months to start to improve, to get past that plateau.
Sure,
as you said.
sure,
That's
sure.
the program that Steve's putting together, and it's absolutely amazing to be a part of. And then last is, what are you doing this year? What are you shooting this year? Do you even know right now?
I don't even know. I mean, so we got the South Georgia match. Thank you to Jamie for stepping up. So he's because the Georgia State Steel Challenge Championship, due to COVID, what have you, with the range, they shut that match down. But Jamie stepped up down in Valdosta. He's the range master down in or the match director down at the South Georgia match. And then right after that, we've got the World Speed Shoot. So that's what the next 6 weeks looks like, and it's going to be a
Right.
fast one.
Right.
But there's a ton of great matches coming up after that. You got Area 3 that's coming up on the calendar.
I wonder who's running that.
I don't know.
Who's running that thing?
Some guy that doesn't know any better.
Right.
So you got Area 3 coming up. Area 5's open. The Michigan State match is open. Area 2 Kurtz match out in California is open. The West Florida match is open. I was talking with Corey Kay down in Texas. He's going to run, I think that's Area 4? An Area 4 match
have to
down in
look again.
Texas. So there's going to be a lot of shooting in the next 3 to 4 months. I mean, if you want to shoot a major match every 2 weeks, you can.
Right.
It's going to be exciting.
So I do run Area 3. I'm putting on the first Area 3 Level 3 match in DeSoto, Kansas, where I live. I live right outside of there in Olathe. So that's my area. That's where I'm the match director. You coming?
Absolutely.
You
Wouldn't miss
coming?
it for the world.
You coming?
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of the team that's going to be there.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you're going to shoot with us, come shoot with us at Area 3 and these other
Yeah.
matches. Come see us at Worlds. Steve's going to be there. Come meet this guy. You know who just called me the other day?
Uh-oh.
Told me who's coming.
Uh-oh.
Kurt's coming.
Is he?
Kurt and Maria coming.
Did I say I was going? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So there's going to be some great opportunity down there. And this video to put out there is this is the direction that we're going in.
Yeah.
I'm pulling in people like Steve. I'm not the best. That's not the point. The point is to get people like him involved with people like you and make you better.
Yep, for sure.
We're
All right,
gonna have
brother.
the rest of the weekend, right?
Good seeing you, man. Thanks
Yep.
for coming down.
Thanks
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.